unbuckled cape, does whatever unbuckled cape does. Yo, welcome everyone. I'm Unbuckled Cape, and this is Unbuckled Comics, and this is the 12th time I'm recording this intro. I have had enough. I got a microphone issue that I can't figure out, so you're getting this little snippet on my phone because I quit. And then, I had a cat banging on the door, so she's now sitting here on my right, just purring away if you hear her. Then to my left, I got Unbuckled Baby, even though this is not a buddy episode, Unbuckled Baby. You want to say hi to the folks anyway? He's a chatterbox until I start talking into the microphone. Ugh. Plugs. I got plugs. Facebook and Instagram. I have, you can copy the name that you put in Spotify or whatever it is that you use to listen to this show and paste it and take it over to Facebook or Instagram, put it in the search engine, copy it, paste it there. I don't know what the words I'm saying are anymore. Oh, I said this 12 times in a row. My brain is fried. You get what I'm saying, man. You can go over, find me on social media. You can comment for episodes that I'll read on the show, DM me, and ask politely, and I'll put you into our Discord where you can talk about comics, books, movies, comic book movies, video games, whatever. It's a great community over there. Monday through Friday, I start off your workday with a good dad joke. I use the word good loosely there, just so we're all aware. But so I actually need to issue an apology. I forgot to mention something very important in the Batman the Adventure Continues episode I did 2 weeks ago. Our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles The Last Ronin episode is the episode that took us over 100 downloads. It is official. We are over 100 downloads. Actually, let me pull it up here. I did this in the first time I recorded this. I didn't have it up on my phone in present. You think I would have thought better. At the moment, we are sitting at 172 plays all time, or 172 downloads all time, whatever you want to call it. And we've only added 2 episodes up to that point. So in 2 episodes, we gained 172. Now, people are like jumping on and listening to the backlog as well. But I am incredibly humbled by, I thought at episode 8, I'd be like at, I don't know, maybe 50 if things were going well. So I've been blown away with the success, and every time, someone says, hey, I'm really enjoying the show, or my favorite one is when people tell me that they haven't read comics in a long time, and then they gave me a listen, and now they're back into comics. Like, that's awesome. I love hearing that people are reading comics and, are like reading similar stuff to what I'm reading. And it's great that it feels great when you can share your passion with other people, and other people either develop or already have that passion, and it's something that you can connect with. It's just, this has been, well, actually Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was episode 6 for us. And I was supposed to stop there and reassess what I was going to do. Did I want to keep doing this? Do I want to change it up, try something else? And I never even flinched. I just kept on going. Because I'm having so much fun, but also because of the great response I had from you guys, and people reaching out and asking, hey, can I do something to support the show better? And I want to address, first of all, I feel like I'm at a loss for words with most of this because I don't know what else to say, but I'm so grateful and thankful that people enjoy this as much as they do. But at the moment, with us only being 8 episodes in, I'm going to say, like me on Facebook, on Instagram, wherever you listen to the podcast, hit the little follow button so you get, the little updates of when I drop episodes and such. And just, interact that way. Give me comments to add in my episodes. I'm gonna have a unbuckled and unscripted. I think May is our next one. It is. It is May. In May, I would like that to be pretty heavily listener based on comments, but we'll get there. We'll get there. I'm rambling a little too far away here. I just that right now is the best way to support the show. Maybe down the road, I'll set up a Patreon, or I really don't like Patreon, so maybe I'll find something else to do it. But I'll down the road, maybe I'll think of something. And I'm not going to say his name because I didn't ask him if I was allowed to tell this story, but I had one of our listeners reach out to me and offer an insanely generous offer to send me comics that he has in the mail that I haven't read. He was going to send them to me in the mail, and then I would read them and send them back, and be able to do an episode on them. And that way, I wasn't buying them and only paying whatever the small fee is for the shipping and stuff. And it took me forever to respond to him because I just never was I ever thinking that people were gonna like respond the way that they do and say, "Here, I'll send you, to help me with the show." It's insane, and I know you're listening. Thank you again, and I'm sorry. I probably should have got your name, and then I could have. But anyway, I am part of another Discord, a couple, but specifically, Remember the Game Discord. And with those guys, I did fantasy football this year, right? And I didn't go well. I was the big loser. There was no question that I was the big loser. And back in November, one of the guys over there asked if he could have my address so he could ship me a T-shirt of me being a big loser. And I think I made out pretty good. The T-shirt's pretty sick. It has the Echo the Dolphin box cover on it, which is a meme over at that place, but I don't think it's that bad of a game. Now, underneath it says the best game ever. It is not the best game ever, but I don't think it's as bad as what everyone makes it out to be. But anyway, and then on the back it has unbuckled cape across the top like a name, like a jersey name type deal. My record of 3-11, and then at the bottom I think it says loser 2022, and then the letters on it are glow in the dark. It's sick. I love that shirt actually. I wear it quite a bit, to be honest, just around the house. I mean, I don't want to go out in public and have people actually think that I am. I think that Echo the Dolphin is the best game ever. But anyway, I had kind of forgot about that whole thing, and when Mrs. Unbuckled and I talked about, people asking to send me stuff, or a person asking to send me comics, we decided that if I would go that route, I would get a PO box, so I wouldn't be giving out my physical address. Well, to this other person, I already had given out my physical address, and I forgot. And like 2 days after her and I had this conversation, she called me while I was at work and was like, "Are you expecting a package?" I was like, "Not that I know of." She was like, "Really? You're not expecting? You can't think of any package you'd be expecting?" I'm like, "No, man. I didn't order anything." And here it was. She told me who it was from, and where it was from, and I was like, "I have no idea who that is." And she says, "Well, it says Unbuckled Cape on it. In case you didn't know, Unbuckled Cape isn't my actual name." So, like, she assumed that it was from the Unbuckled comic show that we have here. And I was like, "I don't know what to tell you. I did not send it out." And then it dawned on me, I'm like, "Oh, it's probably a T-shirt from RTG Fantasy Football." And she was like, "No, it's hard. It feels like a comic." And like, she was like really grumpy with me. And I understand it. Like, she felt like I went behind her back after we had that conversation. Um, And I was like, "Well, why don't you open it and see what it is?" And it was a T-shirt, but the T-shirt was wrapped in a comic. And the guy that sent it to me, like, I knew he was in our Discord, but I didn't realize he listened. And I messaged him, told the story, and of course I thanked him for the comic. I mean, that's wild that he sent it to me. He told me that for the most part he only reads Punisher, and he thought that I would get more enjoyment out of that comic than what he was. So, it's going to get an episode. I don't know when. It's a Agents of Shield comic, so I'll put it on the list. I'm not sure when we're gonna grab that one, but uh, thank you to him. But for the time being, I just prefer if, just listen and interact with me on social media and stuff. And in case you're wondering, Mrs. Unbuckle and I actually had a pretty good laugh about it because I did say to her then, don't you remember back in like November when I told you I was waiting for a T-shirt because I was fantasy loser, and she was like, well, I don't remember what I had for breakfast, and then we had a good laugh. So all is well that ends well. Just again, this all should have been in the last episode because that's when we hit the 100. But I'm kind of glad I waited because I wouldn't have had that story for this one, or I wouldn't have had the T-shirt story for that episode. So now I get to bundle it all nice and neat for you. So holy cow, we're over 10 minutes. Real quick before we jump into our actual comic talk, instead of me talking about blowing smoke up my own bum, I guess. But please don't think I'm blowing smoke up my own bum. I'm so overwhelmed with everything that has been popping up here and all the support I've been getting. I can't wait to continue to do this and better my craft and make it a show that even more people will like and join in, and we can create our own comic community here. That is now the goal here. So thank you guys is what I really wanted to say. Thank you so much. Now, before we get into our Spider-Man Vengeance of Venom, I had one listener comment. That listener is Big Kid 782. Big Kid 782 says, I love both these characters and the relationship. Unfortunately, I never read this set of comics, so I look forward to hearing what you have to say about it. Well, Big Kid 782, I'm looking forward to telling you what I have to say about it. And yeah, if you love both of those characters, Spider-Man and Venom, this is a must. If you love Spider-Man, pick it up. If you love Venom, it's a must. This is definitely more of a Venom thing than a Spider-Man, just because of the couple of the end stories. That's the only reason I'm saying that. But we're gonna get into that right now. I'm gonna hit our little musical button, and here we go. All right, Spider-Man: Vengeance of Venom. Now, most of these stories are the Amazing Spider-Man stories, just in case you're wondering. So I probably should have said The Amazing Spider-Man Vengeance of Venom, but hey, this is only like episode what? I think this will end up being 8. But anyway, this is my first complete Spider-Man comic. When I was younger, my grandma and pap got me like smaller versions of some of the first actual like Spider-Man comics, and they were picking them up at a store, and I don't remember what store, and I don't have the complete set, and I don't really think I read them. But this was my first like trade of Spider-Man. This is the first one I sat down and actually read, and I did not buy it because it was Spider-Man. I bought it because it's the Vengeance of Venom. I am a big Venom fan. Batman's my favorite comic book character. Venom is my second favorite comic book character. And it probably goes back to when I was little and Dad had the Sega Genesis, and the 3 games I played the most was NHL 99, The Adventures of Batman and Robin, and Venom and Spider-Man Separation Anxiety. And when we played that, my cousins and I would play that, and they always wanted to be Venom, which made me always want to be Venom. And I remember the 90s cartoon, and I really liked the episodes with Venom in that. And thus started the love affair with Venom. Now, I am older. Venom is still one of my favorites. Looking at my shelf here, I'm going to say yes, without a doubt. The most comics I own are of Batman, and then the second most is Venom. But, there is a pretty wide margin between the two. By pretty wide, I mean like probably like 20 or more. But I do collect Venom Funko Pops. I do the Venomized ones. So, like the Captain America and Iron Man, and they're all like Venom. So I also got some Venom art up on the wall. I like Venom. That's what I'm getting at. I do like Spider-Man. Again, when I was younger, the Sam Raimi, not, yeah. Yeah. The first Spider-Man trilogy. I love those. I still think Tobey Maguire was a really good Spider-Man. You can't really convince me he was a high schooler, but that's neither here nor there. Love the current Spider-Man. I think Andrew Garfield uh, should have been a really good Spider-Man, but his writing didn't help him. So even though I am a monster Venom fan, I'm also a pretty big Spider-Man fan. And when I was younger, I had like the Spider-Man costume that I ran around in, and blah 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 blah. So I'm gonna keep moving here, trucking right along, because this compilation, this trade spans many issues, and then also has a couple different story arcs in it. It has a ton of creators. And I am changing up the format for this. I am going to be listing the creators, and then I'm just going to tell you some of the projects that they worked on instead of giving you like how many credited characters, because like I said, there is a lot. It's going to take us a while to get through here. And then I'm also going to change the format with how we do the comic. I'm not going to basically reread the comic. I made a couple bullet points. I'll just talk about, the parts that I like, disliked. It'll be more of a less structured episode, I believe. And then I'm going to get into the characters of Spider-Man and Venom and what this comic does for them long term, and how we kind of view them in the future and past and present. And creators. That's what I'm looking for. Creators. So, I guess before we do creators, I typically talk about the art style. Uh, I don't know what I wrote there, and I apologize for the dead air. So, anyway, this is this art style is, I think, what most people picture when they picture Spider-Man comics. It's not. So again, because it's so many different creators, sometimes there's slight shifts. My favorite Venom is the blue Venom, and this is the best Spidey outfit. Period. Throughout this whole story, this is the best Spidey outfit that throughout all the comics. So great art style. This is the 10 out of 10. It just has that classic feel to it. So I love this art style. You'll like this art style. It works really well. And let's talk about those guys that made this comic, guys and gals. Sorry, got a little drinky with me here tonight. This is the first time I'm having a little drink while recording. It's also almost 11 o'clock at night. Just had a late night and got a lot going on this weekend, so I decided maybe a little drink to wet my whistle. This is the second recording I am doing tonight, and thought maybe a little alky will help keep my throat from getting sore on the way through this. So these main contributors, and there are many of them, but only two writers. David Michelin, he worked on the OG Lethal Protector, not the Lethal Protector that we just read about last month. Last month? Yeah, last month. But Venom's original solo issue. He also worked on Spider-Man and Action Comics, but like Spider-Man standalone. Then we have Peter David. He worked on the new Fantastic Four. Yes, the new Fantastic Four that we already talked about. And then he was also part of the DC versus Marvel comics, which down the line we're going to talk about one of them. And then let's move right on to pencilers. Mark Bagley, he worked on a lot of Spider-Man, Venom, Justice League America, and of course the OG Lethal Protector. Then we have Jim Craig. He worked on the What If series for Marvel, Amazing Spider-Man, Venom, Hulk, and Moon Knight. Paris Cullins, had a ton of DC stuff like New God, Action Comics, Detective Comics. Eric Larson, he worked on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Amazing Spidey, Spawn, Fantastic Four, Superman, Ron Lim, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Venom, Absolute Carnage, Infinity War, Flash, and also Sonic the Hedgehog. Pretty cool. Aaron Lopresti, Wonder Woman, Justice League, Hulk, Spidey, Detective Comics, and Red Sonja. And the last penciler is Todd Smith. He worked on Green Hornet, Venom, Spider-Man, Blue Devil, Conan, and The What If. There is a surefire pattern happening here. See if you can't pick it up as we move on to the inkers. Dan Day worked on Detective Comics, Swamp Thing, Star Trek, Sherlock Holmes, Spider-Man, and Venom. And again, they work on a ton more. I'm just picking out the notable ones that I recognize. Brother David Day worked on Sherlock Holmes, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Venom, and What If. Randy Emberlin, Spider-Man, G.I. Joe, R.I.P.D. You remember that Ryan Reynolds movie, R.I.P.D.? Yeah, it's a comic book. Doctor Strange, Star Wars, Bruce Jones, Vampirella, Kingpin, Man-Bat, Spider-Man, Venom, Bud LaRosa, X-Men, Daredevil, X-Force, The Titans, Deadpool. We're gonna get to some Deadpool down the line here. I got about nine Deadpool comics sitting up here. They're trades. Got them sitting up there ready to go. I'm also pulling the current Deadpool. Oh boy, I'm dragging this out. Let's keep moving. Mike Machian, JLA, West Coast Avengers, Spider-Man, JSA, Wonder Woman, and Superman. Tom Palmer, Avengers, Moon Knight, Action Comics, and Kick-Ass. Again, yeah, Kick-Ass. That movie, the first one was pretty decent, and the second one was not so decent. It started out as a comic, if you didn't know. Moving on to colorists. John Kalisz, Kalisz. Anyway, JSA, Batman and Robin, Detective Comics, Fantastic Four, Punisher, Bob Sharon, Spider-Man, Iron Man, G.I. Joe, Ghost Rider, Tom Smith, Avengers, Nova, Brave and the Bold, Justice League / Avengers. That's the one I have that we will eventually be talking about. Justice League / Avengers. Kevin Tinsley, Spider-Man, Punisher, X-Men, Ghost Rider, Wolverine. Renee, oh boy, Witter Statner, She-Hulk, What If, Guardians of the Galaxies. Letterers. Steve Dutrow, Hardware, which is a DC character. Star Wars, Fantastic Four, Flash, and Predator. Ken Lopez, JLA, Superman, Punisher, Harley Quinn. Excuse me. And Bionicle. You remember Bionicle? The cool. Were they done by Lego? I think they were done by Lego. Cool little like robot type things. They even had a show on Cartoon Network, I believe it was. Yeah, there was Bionicle cartoons. I remember them. Pretty cool. Rick Parker, not to be confused with Peter Parker, but they worked on the same comic. He worked on G.I. Joe, Spider-Man, Hulk, Fantastic Four, and What If. Richard Starkings, Wolverine, X-Men, Spider-Man, Daredevil. So the theme, if you didn't pick up, was a lot of these artists worked on Spider-Mans, not including the Amazing Spider-Man that we're reading on, but a lot of them were regulars at this point in time for the Spider-Man comics. So, like I said, that's a lot, and I apologize. We're already over 12 minutes into this episode. But we are going to move right on to the plot of the trade. It's a very typical early Venom story. Venom's just after Spider-Man. If you don't know, Spider-Man brought the symbiote to Earth. He rejected the symbiote. Peter Parker exposed Eddie Brock's big story to be a lie. So Eddie Brock hates Peter Parker. Alien symbiote hates Spider-Man. And Brock and the symbiote's path cross and they become Venom. The symbiote knows that Spider-Man and Peter Parker are one and the same. It reveals that to Eddie Brock, thus creating Venom. And Venom knows that Peter Parker and Spider-Man are the same. And he continually just tries to kill Spider-Man and eat his brains. So that's backstory before we actually get into this. This comic just kind of starts out as your typical early Venom going after Spider-Man. And the first story we get also has Stick and Stones. Sticks is a character. They do explain his backstory eventually. Stick, like anything he touches, he kind of instantly kills, but he suffers pain and like boredom a lot, and that's like his only relief. And then Stones is just kind of like a high-tech muscle man with big guns and stuff, and they're hired to go after Spider-Man, and they're all their paths kind of cross at the same time. Stick ends up, in quotation marks here, kills Venom, who then ends up rooming with Cletus Cassidy in prison, and I'm not sure what prison it was. They end up not sending him to, like the Raft or something like that because he was just Eddie Brock, or so they thought. Because it's comics. The symbiote lives and breaks Brock out of prison, and we kind of go right back to the more Venom chasing Spider-Man around, and that's pretty much the bulk of this comic. There are there are more chases than you can shake a spider web at. I think that is a comment that even Stan Lee would have been proud of. I do like, however, that in the second half of this story, we do get to see that Venom isn't just brute force, mad, hungry animal type deal. He is kind of clever. He uses a very clever a very clever cryo trap. I've been reading a lot of Dr. Seuss to Unbuckle Jr. You think I'd be better at these little tongue twisters I got set up in here. But anyway, Venom sets up this trap and he kind of freezes Spider-Man alive, little Austin Powers style, and takes him to a deserted island so that they can battle it out and without any interruptions. On the deserted island, we get Spider-Man tricks Venom into believing he is dead, and Venom's rage towards Spider-Man ends up being his ultimate downfall because he believes this. So that's what am I trying to say here? Eddie Brock and Venom together in a lot of cases are really he's mostly the muscle and the symbiote, but he's not all that dumb until he's angry. The angrier he gets, the more blind rage he has. And a lot of times that's how Spider-Man beats him, because even if Spider-Man outsmarts him, the symbiote is good enough to like kind of offset that. And then of course the symbiote doesn't set off Spider-Man's Spidey sense, so that's an issue as well. And then we after that we get Carnage's first story. So the first short story is Spider-Man: The Vengeance of Venom. And that's only a small snippet of this compilation. The next story is, in my opinion, a much bigger story because we met Cletus Cassidy before, but now we get to meet Carnage. And Carnage is the symbiotes kind of reproduce asexually. They just kind of like split into another part of themselves. And the Venom symbiote did that when they were breaking out of prison. And that alien symbiote joins with Cletus Cassidy, who is a absolute psychopath. He's a murderer and meshes with the symbiote to create Carnage. And they go on a rampage killing spree. And because of that rampage killing spree and, Spider-Man's responsibility, everything's always his fault, even if it's in like such a roundabout way. It's kind of hard to believe that it's Spider-Man's fault. He feels very responsible for the whole Carnage being there killing people just left and right with no rhyme or reason whatsoever. And Spider-Man has the logic that I brought the first alien symbiote, the Venom symbiote, to Earth, and then it created this Carnage symbiote, so it's all my fault type deal. And they have a confrontation, and it goes way worse than any battle Spider-Man had had with Venom, prompting Spider-Man to decide he needs Venom's help to capture Carnage and put an end to it. And this is pretty much the start of that little choo-choo train that goes on for years and years and years, and even into current comics, where Spider-Man and Venom, actually, I feel like they team up a lot more than what they are enemies, and this is the start of it. And when I picked up this comic, I don't think I realized that story was in here. I think I seen that it was, it's a Spider-Man Vengeance of Venom, cool. And I kind of flipped through it, seeing the artwork, and took it. I didn't realize I was getting the first Spider-Man Venom team up story, and that is when the Venom character is at his best. He's good as a Spider-Man villain. He's a good character on his own, but when he and Spider-Man team up against Carnage specifically, and no, I actually, off the top of my head, that's like one of the few times I can only ever picture them teaming up. That's when Venom's at his best. He's funny. He gets to play the role of lethal protector, but like kind of like a good cop, bad cop type deal. And Spider-Man gives Venom his word not to bring him in, so like Spider-Man has to walk the line, but Venom really doesn't worry about it. He's still a little cuckoo. And they team up because Carnage is just out there slaughtering innocent people, and that's Venom's big thing. Even though he is a Spider-Man villain, Venom wants to protect innocence, and he has this like twisted sense of morals where he'll end up hurting innocence to protect innocence, but he then feels a massive amount of responsibility because the Carnage symbiote is the offspring of the Venom symbiote, and Carnage is extremely powerful. And actually, in my opinion, I think Carnage is a better Joker than Joker. I mean, when you really think about it and you look at Joker comics, now, yes, he has some of his standalone ones where they're really, really twisted, and like I don't even want to read some of them because I don't know if Joker interests me without Batman. But that's off topic. Joker kills, and he kills a lot, and he kills randomly, but he isn't as scary as Carnage because that's literally all Carnage does. Like every once in a while, Joker will have like a separate scheme. Maybe he's trying to steal. He's needs some cash, trying to sell stuff on the black market. Carnage got none of that going on. He is just out there to kill, and kill as quick as he can. So if I'm sitting here like, yeah, Batman's my favorite comic book character, and I love the Joker, but as far as like the most evil villain character I can think of, it's got to be Cletus Cassidy. He is just evil personified. And this whole, I actually don't remember what the tag is, the titles for like the parts 1 through whatever for this section. But this Spider-Man Venom team up against Carnage is easily the best part of this compilation. It's fast action, it's a little chaotic here and there. And like I said before, this is your best Venom and Spider-Man interaction. Is the team up that they do together. Uh, that's not to say the other stories in this aren't good. The other stories in this are still great, but this is the one that you pick up the book for. Um, then we get a another story here. Just give me 1 second. Let me take a sip. Doing a couple of recordings back to back, your throat definitely does get a little sore. So the next one is Trial of Venom. And this is actually a pretty thought provoking story. It kind of takes a look at the Eddie Brock versus Venom symbiote, and by the end of it, you're really questioning, is Eddie Brock responsible for all of his actions when he's tied with the Venom symbiote? Uh, Daredevil is in this, which I love because I would put Daredevil as my third favorite comic book character. I have a couple of his setting up here, but certainly not enough. When is it enough comics though? But anyway, and Daredevil is the way that he should be. He's kind of an extreme boy scout, and he's here in this comic in all of his law-abiding glory. And we also get to see a different side, maybe not a different side when it comes to Venom, but you get to see a side of Spider-Man that isn't in a lot of comics, and we see him really, really hold a grudge towards Eddie Brock for having the Venom symbiote, even though the symbiote joined with Brock. And this whole story is based on um I guess the symbiote dies while Venom is in prison, and Eddie Brock is claiming that the symbiote made him do everything. So Daredevil, well, Matt Murdock, the lawyer, ends up taking the case as Eddie Brock's defendant and trying to get him acquitted of all of his crimes while being Venom. Uh, so, I mean, the story kind of goes the way you think it would, right? They do the trial, and throughout the whole process, Spider Man's really dealing with this hatred and fear of Venom, and he projects that on Eddie Brock. But the question is it Eddie Brock's fault? And I really like the way this comic ends because, as you guessed, the Venom symbiote is not dead. But just because it's another trick to get out of prison doesn't necessarily mean that the point of is Eddie responsible for what he does, or does the symbiote make him do everything? That's a question that's still up in the air. And I really like comics, movies, books, whatever. I like when they end on that kind of cliffhanger where you have to decide for yourself what the actual ending is. And this is, I'm actually going to say this is my third favorite out of the group so far. So it would be the Spider-Man, Venom, and Carnage one, then the Vengeance of Venom, followed by Trial of Venom. And then we got a couple more quick little hit stories. Our fourth story in this is solely a Venom story. Any sympathy has been dropped from this last story, and it feels more of the same this time. It involves Peter Parker's parents. They were imprisoned in a Russian prison for a long time, I think like 20 years or whatever, and they come back, and Eddie sees that they're back, and he and the Venom symbiote break out and go after Peter's parents. And like I said, it feels more of the same, but I was still entertained. But I could see how someone that doesn't love the Venom character like I do start to go, "Oh, okay, this is kind of stale." But I still enjoy it. And then at the very end of this comic, however, it starts to set up Venom's first solo act, Lethal Protector. So, um, not only do we get Carnage's first story, we get that transition of Venom moving on to being anti-hero Venom, right? Pretty cool. So we have the way this is set up, it was done really, really well, right? So we have villain Venom, where he's just flat out a Spidey villain. Then we have Venom Spider-Man team up against Carnage. Then we have a story that makes you feel sympathy for Eddie Brock. Then we have a story that kind of drops that sympathy, but at the very end, kind of gives Venom a way out of being the bad guy, right? And then we get a little more Eddie Brock backstory. And then there are two more quick little ones. First Kill and Lost Days, or more character building for the Lethal Protector. And they're just quick, short little stories with not a lot of meat. Really, really nothing to say about them. But they are worth reading again because they are building up towards Venom's first solo comic, Lethal Protector. So that's basically what you get in the Spider-Man Vengeance of Venom trade. It's a great little trade. It's a great story, especially if you are a fan of Spider-Man, Venom, Carnage, any of them. Like if you're a fan of Venom and Carnage, this you got to have this in there. It's Birth of Venom, Vengeance of Venom, Separation Anxiety, Maximum Carnage, and Lethal Protector. Those are the ones that you have to have to read Venom comics. Um, that's pretty much it as far as the plot and story goes. Like I said, I want to try to get away from actually like just giving you like a whole big summary over it. This is a decent size graphic novel, so there's a lot in there for you to sink your teeth into. But the last thing I want to talk about here, something a little new section I'm adding to the show. I want to talk about our big characters that were in this and maybe a little character development on them. And the three characters, now there is a lot, there's Daredevil in here, Mary Jane is in everyone. We have Aunt May, Parker's parents, J. Jonah Jameson, among a slew of others. I'm just focusing on the ones that the story is focusing on the most, which is, of course, Spider-Man, Venom, and Carnage. Working in reverse order, Carnage is a maniacal murderer. That's about it. Later on, we get a little more backstory. We learn a little more about Cletus Cassidy, and that character builds over time. This is just, he's insane and he kills people. That's it. So if you're looking to get to know the Carnage symbiote, and that's what you're looking for, again, this is his debut story, so you're going to want to read it at some point, but you can skip ahead to Maximum Carnage, and that's going to give you your best look at Cletus Cassidy and the Carnage symbiote, for starters at least. I mean, there's Carnage has his own stuff out there. Go grab that if you want more of him, but there's not a lot of character to talk about when it comes to Carnage. Then we have Venom. Uh, like I said earlier, it starts out with Venom being a basic brute, right? And then Venom wants to protect innocent people, and he really shows that with Aunt May. There's a part where a baby falls into the river, and he does show like there is a couple of times when he does kill some people, and he does actually show small remorse. Prison guards is what they were. He's trying to escape, and he ends up killing them. And he does say about how he is upset that innocents have to die, but they're in his way of getting to Spider-Man, basically. And like I had said earlier, this comic does give us where we get to see moments of intelligence from the Venom symbiote, the trap that he lays for Spider-Man, among some other things. The trial of Venom. Every time he breaks out of prison, other than the one where the Venom symbiote kind of just breaks him out and he has really nothing to do. They just blow a big hole in the wall. But the trial of Venom, how he gets out, is pretty inventive. And uh, yeah, the I almost wanted to say how he lured Spider-Man in the one that involves his parents, but I guess that was just kind of a byproduct of what Venom does with his parents. Again, I'm trying not to spoil anything for you, but any kind of intelligence that we may or may not see from Eddie Brock and the Venom symbiote completely and totally gets thrown by the wayside when Spider-Man gets involved just because of his blind rage. And then, last but certainly not least, Spider Man. This comic is Spider Man Vengeance of Venom, and up until like the last two or three stories, it is a Spider Man focused comic. So, and that's a lot of fun. Spider Man's a great character because of his balance between being a superhero and then, typical life. He's a grad student. At this point, he is married to Mary Jane. And like I just said, he always has like these other conflicts in life. There's financial issues. They're concerned about Felicia Harding and her dating Flash Thompson. Um, so Spider-Man and Flash Thompson at this point are best friends. And Spider-Man and Felicia Harding were dating and then not dating. And it was one of those, back and forth things until Marvel decided to wed Spider-Man and Mary Jane officially. But Felicia Harding's heartbroken by it, and Peter and Mary feel like that she is dating Flash Thompson just basically out of spite, and she's gonna hurt Flash. So that's like, you know, I sat here and talked about it for almost a minute. So that's quite a few panels out of this comic. And the point I'm trying to make is that Spider-Man comics aren't just about Spider-Man swinging around New York. It's his balance of life and how stressed and hard it is. And then, of course, as always, we get the patent Spidey wit and sarcasm. And when I read this, and you get to the points where his wit and sarcasm are peeking through, it really really reminds me of the '90s cartoon, or maybe the '90s cartoon reminds me of this, I guess. No, the first way I said it's right. I watched the '90s cartoon before I read this, so yeah, just I mean, he's cocky, like I said, really sarcastic, and I love it. It's great. So, uh, sitting here looking at my shelf, I don't have a ton of solo Spider-Man comics. Actually, I have basically no solo Spider-Man comics. Something that will need to be rectified down the road, but I do really think that Spider-Man is best with Venom. And that's because I'm a bigger Venom fan than I am a Spider-Man fan, but it's the extra layer of Venom knowing who Spider-Man is. That's what makes those comics so special, because Spider-Man can't just take off the mask and go home and explain to Mary Jane what kind of a day he had. Spider-Man has to worry about Venom coming after Mary Jane or Aunt May or his parents or anyone else that, J. Jonah Jameson, anyone else that Peter Parker may know. And then the weird flip side to that is, and the clever side, because if Venom was truly a villain, I mean, I guess from the start he was probably destined for anti-hero ship. Is that a word? Anti-hero ship? He was probably destined for that from the beginning, right? Because you created this villain who knows who Spider-Man is. He's Peter Parker. And you made him absolutely hate Spider-Man to the core, like where he kills other people to get to Spider-Man. So how do you make it so that Venom just doesn't go after Aunt May and Mary Jane and et cetera, et cetera? You give him a twisted sense of morals and code where he's actually out there protecting the innocents, right? He thinks that Spider-Man's the bad guy, and Spider-Man's out there corrupting people and trying to ruin their lives. And I mean, we all know that that's false, but the again, the trial of Venom, is Eddie Brock crazy and just as responsible as a symbiote, or is it the symbiote making him do all this? Um, you know, in that case, in this set of stories, we don't really find out the answer to it, but that's what makes it that the whole Venom Spider-Man relationship is really interesting, because Venom won't hurt Spider-Man's loved ones. He wants to protect Spider-Man's loved ones from Spider-Man, and it's just kind of this like I think we're saying the same thing here, like they want the best for the people around Spider-Man, but they have different, very, very different ideas of how to get it. Spider-Man wants to be there and protect them, and Venom thinks that he needs to kill Spider-Man to protect them. So slightly different ideas. Uh, like I said, though, I think Venom was really destined to go towards the anti-hero side eventually because of that. It's hard to keep writing a villain and making it interesting when he is clearly stronger than Spider-Man, doesn't trigger Spider-Man's spider sense, and then also has the ability to use Peter Parker's life against him. And we get to see that a couple more times in some other comics, because even though Venom ends up moving on and becoming an anti-hero, his rage for Spider-Man still kind of like precedes everything else. So this isn't the last time they battled. This isn't the last time Venom is a Spider-Man bad guy. And rest assured, here on Unbuckled Comics, we will be taking a look at much, much more Venom and some more Spider-Man. Like I said, I got to get more Spider-Man in here. But yeah, that's all I really got for you on this episode. I like this comic. And let me tell you, if it was just the first 3 stories in this, I'd be giving it a 10 out of 10. But those last ones, even though they're like in-depth looks at Eddie Brock and the Venom symbiote, they do get a little boring and they're a little bit slow. So I think I'm going to knock it down to an 8 out of 10. But I highly recommend picking up this comic if you like Spider-Man or Venom. This is an absolute must. And I typically end these episodes by saying something silly that's in the comics, but there wasn't really anything silly that stuck out to me. So how about instead we end the comic with me saying goodbye and have a nice evening.